It was supposed to be a day of love. A day where couples exchanged roses, shared quiet dinners, and held each other close in the crisp February air. But in Birmingham, Alabama, Valentine's Day 2024 was anything but romantic. Instead, it was a day that ended in chaos, fear, and irrevocable heartbreak. In the span of just a few moments, 18 lives were lost, ending what authorities would later describe as one of the most horrifying killing sprees in Alabama's history. And at the center of this unimaginable storm was one man, Damian McDaniel. Damian McDaniel, 32 years old, was a name known to few before that February. But after a trail of blood and terror spread across the city, his name would become synonymous with horror. He is now accused of being Alabama's deadliest serial killer, linked to 18 murders over a 14-month rampage, with the Valentine's Day Massacre serving as the cruel, tragic crescendo. Among his alleged victims, a pregnant woman and her unborn child, slaughtered in what authorities are calling a calculated, emotionless execution. How does someone become a killer of this magnitude? How can such violence go unchecked for so long? And what darkness was hiding beneath Damian's seemingly ordinary exterior? This is not just a story about death. It's a story about silence, oversight, trauma, and the darkest corners of the human mind. And as we unravel the events leading up to this Valentine's Day bloodbath, you'll see how a killer moved among us, unnoticed, unchallenged, and unrelenting. It began quietly. Birmingham, Alabama has always had its share of crime, like any other urban area. But this was different. Over the course of just over a year, bodies began to turn up in different neighborhoods. The deaths didn't seem connected at first. A drug-related shooting here, a robbery gone wrong there, a domestic violence dispute. But as time passed, detectives began to notice disturbing similarities. Ballistics linked multiple scenes. Eyewitness accounts described a similar man, medium height, dark hoodie, emotionless. The pieces were forming, but slowly, too slowly. On February 14, 2024, the chaos exploded. Around 7:45 p.m., a call came into 911 dispatch. Gunshots. Screams. A heavily pregnant woman had been gunned down in her apartment in North Birmingham. Her partner, who tried to shield her, died instantly. Their unborn child, just weeks from being born, was also lost. The brutality of the act shocked even the most seasoned officers. Valentine's Day had become a bloodbath. But that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Within the next 2 hours, 5 more people were found shot in their homes across different neighborhoods. All the victims appeared to have no strong connection to one another. A retired schoolteacher, a mechanic, a college student. Random, yet methodical. By midnight, the city was paralyzed by fear. Police helicopters circled overhead. Checkpoints were set up. But the damage was done. 18 people died. 18 lives taken in 14 months. And most terrifyingly, it appeared the killer had no pattern, no remorse, no clear motive. So who is Damian McDaniel? Born and raised in the outskirts of Birmingham, McDaniel's early life was unremarkable, at least on the surface. But dig a little deeper, and you find the roots of a deeply disturbed psyche. Childhood friends described him as distant, always observing but rarely participating. Teachers remembered his cold, almost blank demeanor. He was intelligent, quiet, and often flew under the radar. But beneath that surface was an undercurrent of rage that no one seemed to notice or chose to ignore. McDaniel's father was incarcerated when he was just 8 years old. His mother worked 2 jobs and struggled with substance abuse. Damian bounced between relatives, foster care, and juvenile programs. He was diagnosed at age 15 with oppositional defiant disorder and later antisocial personality traits. But treatment was inconsistent. And as the system failed to intervene, Damian grew into adulthood as a ticking time bomb, untreated, isolated, and harboring a deep resentment toward the world. He worked as a night shift janitor for years. He had no criminal record of note, no romantic partners, no online presence. It was as if he barely existed. But in 2023, something snapped. And once it did, there was no stopping him. What makes McDaniel's case especially chilling isn't just the body count, It's the methodical way in which he allegedly operated. Investigators say he often returned to scenes days after the killings, watching silently as police combed the area. He blended in, observed, and stayed one step ahead. There were no fingerprints, no digital trails, no DNA. His ability to avoid detection for over a year suggests an unnerving level of planning and emotional detachment. Experts in forensic psychology suggest that McDaniel fits the profile of an organized spree killer. Unlike impulsive criminals driven by emotion, spree killers like McDaniel can operate with eerie precision. They're able to compartmentalize their actions, showing little to no remorse. It's not rage that drives them, it's control. The ability to decide who lives and who dies. When McDaniel was finally apprehended, it wasn't through brilliant detective work or high-tech surveillance. It was through a tip from a neighbor who noticed a car matching the suspect description parked suspiciously for days near one of the crime scenes. That tip led police to a storage unit rented under a false name. Inside, they found chilling evidence, blueprints of neighborhoods, victim photos, and a wall covered in newspaper clippings of the murders. But the most disturbing find? A journal. In haunting, meticulous detail, McDaniel chronicled each killing. He described his victims as projects. He wrote about the silence in their final moments, the way their bodies collapsed, the expressions on their faces. He wasn't just killing. He was studying, perfecting. One entry read, February 14th. Love is a lie. Life is a joke. They celebrate what they don't understand. I gave them something real. Those chilling words have echoed across newsrooms and courtrooms. They provide a window into a man who saw human life as disposable, who saw murder as art. But how did we get here? How did a man like Damien McDaniel operate in plain sight for over a year without raising alarms? The answer lies in the systemic failures of mental health services, a lack of community vigilance, and a criminal justice system overwhelmed by caseloads and understaffing. In a city like Birmingham, where crime rates are already high, individual murders don't always connect immediately. The victims spanned different demographics: young, old, black, white, men, women. The randomness made it harder to profile. And McDaniel knew this. He used it. Authorities now face difficult questions. How many more were in danger? Could earlier intervention have saved lives? Could the Valentine's Day massacre have been prevented? The families left behind wrestle with grief that cannot be measured. One mother, whose 22-year-old daughter was among the victims, told reporters, "He didn't just kill her. He killed my future grandkids. My joy. My peace." Her pain is echoed across 18 families, each one shattered by a man who seemed to kill for meaning, for power, for something only he understood. The psychological implications of this case are profound. McDaniel's behavior reveals hallmarks of narcissistic and psychopathic tendencies, traits often found in serial and spree killers. The lack of empathy, the need to dominate, the deliberate selection of victims. These are not random acts of madness. These are signs of a calculated predator. And yet, he wasn't a monster in appearance. He walked the same streets, bought groceries, made small talk with neighbors. That's the most terrifying part. Evil doesn't always look evil. Sometimes it looks just like us. As the trial approaches, prosecutors are preparing a mountain of evidence. But they also face the challenge of presenting a case so emotionally charged, so horrific in scale, that it defies comprehension. Defense attorneys have signaled a possible insanity plea, citing his long-standing mental health issues. But for many in Birmingham, justice must be more than psychological assessments. It must be accountability. The city remains in mourning. Memorials have been set up at several of the crime scenes. Candlelight vigils bring families together, united in grief and disbelief. And yet, amid the sorrow, there is also resilience. Community leaders are calling for reforms, better mental health resources, more community policing, and early intervention programs. Because while Damien McDaniel may be behind bars, the cracks that allowed his spree to continue remain dangerously wide. And what about Valentine's Day? In Birmingham, it will never be the same. Each February 14th will now carry a shadow, a reminder of what was lost, of the lives that ended too soon, and of the darkness that can hide behind the most unsuspecting faces. Damien McDaniel may never speak publicly, but through his crimes, he's already told the world who he is, a man driven by a need to destroy, to be remembered not for who he was, but for what he did. And as his trial begins, one question lingers. How many more are out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for their moment? This has been the story of Alabama's deadliest killer, Damien McDaniel. A man whose name will be etched in infamy. A man whose legacy is written in blood and sorrow. And a story that reminds us all of the thin line between normalcy and nightmare. Thank you for watching this episode of Crimebot Chronicles. If this case shook you, if you felt the weight of these lives and the urgency for justice, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like this video, share it with others, and leave a comment with your thoughts below. What do you think drove Damien McDaniel? Could this have been prevented? And what should justice look like in a case like this? Hit that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the darkest corners of true crime. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and stay aware. This is Crimebot Chronicles, signing off.